the peace of the universe and to the evolution of the planet. So help us to do it together today by listening, by sending our vibrations of peace and love, and above all, may your will be done, not ours. So
Thank you very much, Susanna. Lots of lessons, right? Take care of our bodies. And talking to Ruth a little bit before, and she was telling a story that's about the topic today, right? So it's the chapter that came up for us today to talk about is chapter 16 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, where Kardec talks about you cannot serve both God and Mammon, which is the God or the symbol of the material life, right? And we were discussing, like, this is probably a challenge that everybody goes through, right? The challenge of handling the two, or at least one of the strongest forces that pulls us, which is the material life, like resources, having things, and the other source that should pull us, sometimes not strong, but is the sense that I'm a eternal being, I'm a spiritual being, I'm a soul, I'm a spirit that is just going through an experience, right? Nowadays, many people don't even know that. They don't even know that they are not gonna die when the body stops, right? But I think within our mind, within our consciousness, something pulls us into that direction or wakes us up, right? And this can happen in different times in our life. But we're going to be pulled. God's going to take care of us, right? Even those that are completely unaware, they have the seeds. We all have the seeds of spirituality and God in our hearts and minds, right? But for those that people are in our community that at least we're already aware of that, because you can say whatever you want, but nobody in our group can claim that you didn't know it. When the moment comes to you and the body stops functioning, right, and you transition and you wake up, and the only thing you cannot say is, I didn't know it. We couldn't talk about that more. So it's so clear, right? So the absolute truth we talk about is your life won't end. Life's not gonna end. Wherever happens, doesn't matter. Whatever choices you make, whatever you believe, whatever you do, that's your choice, right? But one fact that's going to happen no matter what is that your life will not end. Period. Right? And we're all going to know, even if you don't believe it, we're all going to know the day is going to come for all of us, right? So that, 8 billion people on Earth, eventually our bodies reach their limit, right, in terms of physical life, right? So this is the perspective we're going to have right now. So which means, okay, why the teachings of the gospel were so strong in that area? Jesus felt the need to say that clearly, say, you cannot serve both God and money. Why those things will get you in trouble if you try to maximize both of them. And this is a struggle, right? Because it's difficult to navigate this road with balance. But I'm going to try to give my best reading and my best inspiration, I guess, whatever I can capture, right, in why that was so important. And I think that the challenge is, when we make, I'm an engineer of trade, right? And one of the things we do a lot in engineering is to maximize things, is to make a product the cheapest way possible with the highest quality, right? So we can improve profitability if it's a company, right? So what do you want? What do you want to do? You want something that costs not much to make, you can sell for a lot, and has a lot of quality. So that's what you define. And we work hard on that, right? We maximize, like we try to find materials that are cheaper, they're easier to manufacture. So that's why we have wonders. Our life is touched by engineering pretty much everywhere, which is application of science, right? Engineering, you can think about as an application of science in our daily life. And we're full of machines, full of things that make our life a lot easier. I remember when I came off college, and the first time I was living by myself, and I learned the importance of a washing machine. How I was trying to save money, right? Living college, I'm not going to buy anything in my house. I have nothing in my house. First week, I decided that a washer would be a must, because the first time I tried to wash my own clothes off college to save money, that was it. So I appreciated all the people that took care of me before, right? A washing machine was the first thing I bought with my money. I'm not washing my own clothes. So, and we have so many of those machines that make our life so amazing, right? But this is a path of optimization. Is a path that, like, you have to make that thing work because you have a goal, right? If you have a goal, right? If my goal is to accumulate wealth, right? That's how you're going to optimize your life. You're going to organize your life so in a way that the wealth part becomes the most important thing. And here's the problem. Usually, relationships get in the way. Because what's the problem we have? There's one thing that we all have here, relationships. We have people in our life. People in our life. We all have it. By the way, it's so important that everybody has it. There's 8 billion of us, again, on earth. Wherever you are, it's very difficult to be alone. You have to work hard to be alone. Even if you go to the highest mountain in the world, Mount Everest, right, and try to, isolate yourself there, people come after you. There's a lot of people going there to go up the mountain just to meet you, right? It's very hard to be alone. So relationships are the cornerstone of a spiritual life. Why? Because relationships are between spirits, people, souls, whatever you want to call it, that never die. So there's two fundamental forces here. Relationships that reflect spirituality, because those are spirits relating. And then there's the force of material wealth. Why material wealth is so strong is because when you have the resources, financial resources, you can buy services. What is the big difference? If you have a lot of wealth at your disposal, you buy services. What is service? Anything you want. You can buy a person to be in your house to keep your house clean. You can buy somebody to drive you around. You can buy somebody to take you in a jet and be a pilot for you. You can buy a lot of services, right? And that creates a lot of comfort in your life, right? Some people even claim you can buy even relationships. You can buy them as well, right? And that creates a comfortable life, right? Can you imagine if you had services all over you, waiting for you, everything you do? If you have a lineup, if you have 20 people that their job is to make your life easier every day. Can you imagine that? So that's what wealth gives you, right? If you accumulate wealth, that's the path, right? And that's why it's so desirable. That's why we admire that so much and so on. Challenge is, those relationships you buy with wealth, are they truly relationships or their business, their interactions? The question is very simple. If you don't pay money to those people, would they do what they do? If you get 20 people to give you services every day, right? If you have no cash or no wealth to give them in exchange for their work, would they do that? I'm pretty sure that the answer in most cases will be no, right? And here's the problem. Why it's so difficult to manage this spiritual life with wealth is simple. What's going to happen to us with wealth when it comes to wealth? Wealth is not a spiritual possession. Wealth's only valid while we are in the body. The moment we transition out of it, we leave everything behind. I was thinking about the recommendation for the kids today is to play, instead of being on the phone, they play games, right? We have a few games over there. And it's amazing when you're playing a game of Monopoly, right? I don't know if you ever played the game of Monopoly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's an amazing game. We play sometimes. It's very difficult to end the game because it's so long, right? But when we're in the game, the money in the game is so important because you're buying properties and you're trying to buy the best properties and get rent and so on. You're so much into that becomes everything. And people want to, I don't know about you, but my kids, they want to win. They want to win, right? And it's so exciting, right? But once the game is over, right? Once the game is over, the whole money in the game loses completely importance. Well, we remember the memories, right? We have the memories of how we did, how we interact, right? And you would say, Anissa, that's a child game. It's a childish game, right? But in a way, our physical life is very similar. It's just longer. When you think about 80 years, 90 years, 100, even 110 years in a life of a being that is eternal, right? It can be a flash. So all the wealth we accumulate in a single life, from the perspective of someone that has passed, and it will happen to all of us, what do you think is going to be what thing we're going to have memories about? What do we think we take, right? It's the same element. That's the teaching that Jesus was trying. I think that's the expression. What Jesus is saying is that you cannot maximize both things. Either you understand the relationships you have in your life and you try to live a life where you are seeding good, when you're manifesting good, or you maximize your life to accumulate wealth. Those two things will conflict. Will get into conflict. And if you don't think so, if you think you can manage, think about how many problems you have in your life because of money with people. Everybody does. Seldomly, you see a family that has money and doesn't have problem with money in the family. Just go around. Just, if it's not your family, it's your family, it's your spouse, it's your friend. You see, most of the conflict we have in relationships, most of the conflict is because of wealth. Most of the conflict we have on earth. And people sacrifice their relationships quite often, right? Because of wealth. People create problems for generations to come, right? For wealth. Right? Easier said than done, but that's a teaching. The teaching of Jesus is simply put the importance of things, the proper importance. It's not that wealth completely, it's not that you should ignore it, because, I think all of us, we need resources to have our lives, right? We don't want to, there's some philosophies that went for the opposite, right? We should have nothing. We should have no resources. That's not what Jesus taught, right? You still need resources to raise your family, to create a life that's productive, right? That's not the case at all. But what he's calling attention is that should be a tool, not the goal. So the resources, the financial resources, are supposed to be tools. Something we use to leverage our lives, right? Not the goal of my life, right? But the leverage. And if God gave you, if your condition, if your body, your profession, whatever, gave you a condition that a lot of that tool came to you, it's an amazing opportunity to use it properly, to use it in a way that will leverage not just your life, but the life around you, right? So there's nothing wrong with that, right? But the real recommendation is don't maximize just the accumulation. Don't sacrifice the people you have in your life, the relationships you have, because that's the treasure. Why the treasure? Let's just talk a little bit about that. What is the value of a loving relationship? How much you would put in price in terms of money when you have a loving relationship with someone? You could say, what's the price of having a mom or a dad that loves you? How much that costs? What is the price of having a son or a daughter that loves you? What is the price of that? It's hard to put a price. I remember if you read financial economics in the US, there's always an article, one of those, Financial Times or any of those, Wall Street or Journal, whatever, and they say the cost of raising a child in America is going up because you put college and so on, and it costs like $200,000, $300,000 to raise a child in America, right? They scare you, right? This is the idea. This is the best contraceptive, right? Because if you do the math and you have 3 kids, you have to spend $600,000 in raising a kid, right? What is that? It's trying to do an effort to do. But is that something that matters? I never heard a parent tell me about the money they spend on their kid. Well, it's rare, right? How we measure our relationship with our kids, with affinity, with the things we did, with the accomplishments they have done. It's completely different. It's how we connect on a personal level, what kind of relationship we built, right? What kind of connection we built, right? In many circumstances, that's why you're going to see in the gospel that Kardec even mentions in some passages where sometimes it's better to have a life of lack of resources on the lack side, so you're not tempted to overvalue the wealth side. They consider it to be a more tempting, because when you have a lot of resources, right, you might be tempted to overvalue that. And we have a problem here in America, right? Because if you think about the planet, we are in the wealthiest nation around. There's a lot of wealth in our nation, which causes a lot of temptation to us, right? It's a path that we have to be very mindful, because when we cross to the other side, most of the planet, even if you think of yourself as not wealth, right? If we think of, some people think of themselves, I'm not wealth. Wealth is Elon Musk. He's really wealthy. Well, we might be. We might be, if in the percentage of people that live in this planet, it might be hard for us to claim that we're not wealthy, right? But the lessons, I think, is really how we manifest that wealth, how we use it in the most productive way. I think that's the lesson, right? The fundamental lesson of the gospel is that once you fully understand spirituality, once you understand the major commandment, love thy neighbor as yourself, you realize that the relationships you're working on are the main job of this life. What we're really building here are loving relationships, which have no price. Only that realization, even if you don't believe in God, don't believe in anything, but only that realization can change your life completely, because your spiritual growth is almost guaranteed, because you're going to grow spiritually. You're going to make this life's going to be better, right? If you just understand that teaching, right? So we heard it, we all heard it, and now the challenge for us is implementing it. How can we make this thing happen in our lives? And that's the invitation, I think, comes for us. With that in mind, we transition now for our passage. We transition now for our meditation and passages, and we say goodbye.